When it comes to games, bigger budgets don't always mean better experiences. Some of the most memorable and innovative titles come from studios that focus on creativity and passion rather than flashy graphics and marketing hype. Today, I'm giving you 15 AA games that deliver something truly special, outshining many big-name releases. These games prove that sometimes less really is more. So without further ado, let's get things rolling. First up, we have Kena Bridge of Spirits. Kena's like that perfect indie gem that somehow makes you wonder why it wasn't marketed with a giant AAA price tag. First off, the visuals. Seriously, you can't look at this game and not think you're watching a Pixar movie in motion. The world is brimming with vibrant colors, rich environments, and characters that feel alive. It's one of those games where you find yourself just standing still, taking in the scenery. Now, the combat is surprisingly deep. There's this mix of action and strategy, especially with the way you can use the rot to manipulate the environment or weaken enemies. And speaking of rot, these are those little guys that are really pure magic. They're like the adorable sidekicks you didn't know you needed. They bring this warmth to the game that you don't often see in the more bombastic AAA titles. There's also a sense of heart in Kena's story that you don't find everywhere. It's simple, yet touching, and somehow it makes you feel more connected to the characters and the world. Big budget games often get lost in their ambition, but Kena, well, it stays grounded and delivers the experience that's polished, heartfelt, and, frankly, more charming than a lot of the blockbusters out there. It's a journey that, once it's over, you just want to dive back into, and that says a lot about its quality.
Cleansing doctrine.
Our engines are down. Somebody help us.
Hold on, Salu. Evade! Evade!
Please, our families.
Forza, target ahead.
Next up is Chorus. So Chorus is one of those games that feels like it came out of nowhere and just completely surprised me. Space combat games can be hit or miss, but Chorus nails it with style. The way you control your ship, the Forsaken, feels so fluid and responsive, almost like you're dancing through the stars. The drift mechanic is an absolute genius. It gives the combat this intense, fast-paced energy that you don't often get in other space shooters. You're constantly on the move, darting around enemies, pulling off crazy maneuvers that make you feel like a total badass. And the story, while not the most groundbreaking, has this really cool, almost mystical vibe. Nara, the protagonist, has this dark past she's trying to outrun, and it adds this layer of depth to the whole experience. It's not just about blasting enemies. There's this underlying theme of redemption that keeps you invested. The visuals deserve a shout out too. The game's universe is stunning. Flying through nebulae, asteroid fields, and ancient ruins, you're treated to some truly breathtaking sights. It's the kind of game where you lose track of time because you're so immersed in its world. This game doesn't even try to be anything more than it is. It's just a solid, fun, and visually striking space combat game that delivers exactly what you want when you're looking to escape into the cosmos.
Who are you? Magister Laurentius! Stop right there. He's contagious.
Hugo. Here.
The Inquisition came. We lost everything. There was nothing I could do.
Of course. They came for him.
Up next is the A Plague Tale series. This one is truly something special. This series is like stepping into a medieval painting that's been splattered with darkness and despair. What really grabbed me from the start was the way it blends this raw human story with a setting that feels almost suffocating. The whole idea of using swarms of rats as both a threat and a tool in the game is just brilliant. The rats are like a living nightmare, and the way the game uses light to keep them at bay adds a layer of strategy that I didn't expect. You're constantly on edge, trying to protect Amisha and Hugo as they navigate through this grim world, and that tension is palpable. And then there's the story. It's heart-wrenching in all the right ways. Amicia's relationship with her brother Hugo is the emotional core of the game, and you can't help but get pulled into their struggle. The environments are beautifully crafted, even when they're downright horrifying. Every village, castle, and battlefield is dripping with atmosphere, making you feel like you're really there fighting for survival. The sequel even takes everything great about the first game and cranks it up a notch. Bigger set pieces, more emotional depth, and even crazier rat mechanics. If you're into narrative-driven games that leave a mark long after you've finished, this series is one you shouldn't miss.
Oh, wait a minute. I know what happened. It's a spell!
Don't be ridiculous, Cody. We've got to apply logic.
May, okay? We are having a conversation with a pair of binoculars. There is no logic in that.
Next up, we have It Takes Two. Now It Takes Two is something else entirely. This game is just pure joy. It's this wild, creative roller coaster of co-op gameplay that keeps throwing new ideas at you one after the other. Before this game was released, I was actually worried on how the developer will innovate this one since their previous game, A Way Out, is a success. Will this new game be as successful as their previous title? Well, thankfully it did. What really stands out is how every level feels like a different game. One moment you're solving puzzles, the next you're in an all-out action sequence. It's like the developers had a never-ending bag of tricks, and they just kept pulling out surprises. Playing it with a friend or partner is an experience that's hard to beat. You're not just playing side by side, you're actually working together, and that's where the magic happens. The game forces you to communicate, to rely on each other, and that creates some of the best co-op moments I've ever had. The story is also super relatable. It's about a couple on the brink of divorce, and somehow, through all these wacky adventures, they start to rediscover what brought them together in the first place. It's heartfelt in a way that sneaks up on you, like one minute you're laughing at the ridiculousness of the situation, and the next, you're feeling all warm and fuzzy inside.
Hang on!
Moving forward, we have Remnant from the Ashes. Remnant from the Ashes is another one that took me by surprise. At first glance, it's easy to think that this is just another post-apocalyptic shooter, but then it hits you with that Souls-like difficulty and you realize, nah, this is something different. The combat is tight and unforgiving in a way that really keeps you on your toes. Every encounter feels like it could be your last if you're not careful. And the randomness of the world, with its procedurally generated levels, means you're never quite sure what you're going to face next. It's like the game is constantly challenging you to adapt and overcome, and when you do, it's so satisfying. The world building is also top-notch. There's this eerie, almost surreal quality to the environments and enemies that pulls you in. And the co-op? It's a blast. Teaming up with friends to take down a tough boss feels like a real accomplishment. You're strategizing, covering each other, and when you finally take that big bad down, it's a moment of pure triumph. Remnant might not be the flashiest game out there, but man, does it deliver where it counts.
Wait a minute. I'm the best engineer?
You better be, because we need this thing operational as soon as possible, before Harrow comes back to string us all up.
Harrow can suck my...
How bad is it?
Well, the glamour disruptor's fried.
Next up, we have Evil West. This game just oozes style. Imagine taking the gritty Wild West and mashing it up with over-the-top supernatural elements. Yeah, it's as cool as it sounds. You're playing as a cowboy who hunts vampires, and honestly, that's all I needed to hear to be on board. The combat is where it really shines though. It's fast, brutal, and really satisfying. You've got a mix of gunslinging and melee combat that keeps things fresh, and the abilities you unlock make you feel like a one-man army. There's something so satisfying about charging into a group of enemies, blasting away with your revolver, and then finishing them off with a giant electrified gauntlet. The game's world is also worth mentioning. It's this twisted version of the Wild West that's filled with creepy creatures and dark, moody environments. It's the kind of game where you're constantly looking around, soaking in the atmosphere, while also keeping an eye out for the next horde of bloodthirsty monsters. Evil West doesn't hold back, and that's what makes it so fun. It's pure, unfiltered action with a setting that's as unique as they come. If you're looking for something that's just a straight-up good time, this game's got you covered.
Others don't seem to know how fun it is to dig through all this stuff. You can play a real-life detective here.
Officer Cecil, you are a detective.
Yeah, but mostly just a paper pusher.
Up next is the first-person shooter game RoboCop Rogue City. RoboCop Rogue City is one of those games that taps into pure nostalgia while also delivering something fresh. Growing up with the RoboCop movies, I was really hoping they'd nail that gritty dystopian vibe, and honestly, they did. You're stepping into the metal boots of RoboCop himself, and the game just lets you loose in this chaotic, crime-ridden city. The thing that really caught me off guard was how well they captured the feeling of being an unstoppable force. The combat is heavy and impactful. Each shot feels like it's packing a punch, and when you take down enemies, there's this visceral satisfaction that I didn't expect. The story also ties in perfectly with the universe. It's got that blend of dark humor and social commentary that the movies were known for, and it doesn't shy away from the brutality of RoboCop's world. There's something oddly satisfying about being the judge, jury, and executioner in a city that's gone to hell. For fans of the original films or anyone looking for a game that doesn't hold back on the action, this one's a must-play.
I don't care what your race. It's a tragedy whenever anyone's savage like this. Just look at the poor creature. She's been beaten to the brink of death. The Fae may be strange, but they certainly don't deserve this.
Next on the list is Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. On the surface, it might look like just another fantasy RPG, but when you dig in, there's so much depth here. The world of Amalur is massive, and it's filled with lore that feels like it was crafted by someone who genuinely loves the fantasy genre. The combat system is really remarkable, though. It's so fluid and dynamic, letting you mix and match weapons and abilities in a way that feels incredibly satisfying. You can go from slashing enemies with a sword to casting spells without missing a beat, and it all just flows together so smoothly. The world itself is vibrant and colorful, which gives it a different vibe from the usual dark and gritty settings you see in a lot of RPGs. Exploring the different regions, uncovering hidden quests, and meeting the various characters scattered throughout the world, it all makes Amalur feel alive. This is one of those games where you can lose hours just getting lost in the world and experimenting with different builds. It might not have gotten the recognition it deserved when it first launched, but it's absolutely worth diving into if you love a good RPG.
Igor, wake up, you sleepyhead. Look over there. Do you remember the glade just beyond those trees? That's where you proposed to me.
Next up, we have Chernobylite. Chernobylite is one that really stood out to me. It's like a mix of survival horror and sci-fi with a heavy dose of atmosphere. The game takes place in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, and the developers did an incredible job recreating that eerie abandoned setting. You can practically feel the radiation as you explore the desolate buildings and overgrown forests. What really makes it unique, though, is how it blends survival elements with a deeply personal story. You're playing as a scientist searching for your fiancé, and that emotional drive gives the game a lot more weight than just trying to survive. The choices you make have real consequences, and that adds a layer of tension to every decision you make in the game. The crafting system also deserves a shout out. It's robust without being overwhelming, letting you build and upgrade your gear to survive the harsh environment. There's a constant sense of dread hanging over you as you explore, and the game's mix of supernatural elements with real-world horror keeps you on edge the whole time. If you're into games that get under your skin and make you think, Chernobylite delivers. And with the upcoming Chernobylite 2 next year, this is really the best time to dive into this game.
They all have HRAs. We're on the same side.
My name is Jesse Faden. I'm here to perform the directorial override to get the lockdown lifted.
Yeah. Chief Arish, FBC Security. Oh, hang on, you're the new director. It's a pleasure, ma'am.
Next on the list, we have Control. To be honest, I was hesitant to play this game, but thankfully, I did. This game is a mind bender in the best way possible. From the moment you step into the Federal Bureau of Control, you know you're in for something different. The setting is this brutalist nightmare, a constantly shifting building filled with strange paranormal happenings, and it's just weird in the best way. The atmosphere is thick with mystery, and as you explore deeper, things only get stranger. What really makes Control stand out, though, is its gameplay. The way you can manipulate the environment with telekinetic powers is so much fun. You're hurling objects at enemies, using psychic abilities to protect yourself, and just generally feeling like a total badass. The story is also super intriguing. It's cryptic and leaves you with more questions than answers, but that's what makes it so compelling. You're piecing together this puzzle as you go, trying to make sense of the madness, and it keeps you hooked from start to finish. There's something so satisfying about unraveling the game's mysteries, even if you're not entirely sure what's going on half the time. If you're up for something that's both a visual and mental trip, the Federal Bureau of Control is just waiting for you.
Strange. What's up with these little guys? Well, I wonder if they could fix you.
Up next is the action-adventure game, Lost in Random. This one is like stepping into a Tim Burton movie. The art style is just so unique, with this creepy, whimsical vibe that makes the world feel like it's straight out of a dark fairy tale. The whole game revolves around the idea of randomness, which is so cool. You're in this kingdom where everyone's fate is determined by the roll of a die, and that concept is woven into both the story and gameplay. The combat system is unlike anything else out there. You're mixing real-time action with card-based mechanics, and the way it all ties into the theme of chance is genius. Every battle feels different because of the random elements, which keeps things fresh and exciting. The story is also surprisingly deep, exploring themes of fate, choice, and the nature of randomness itself. You're guiding this little girl, even through a world that's both enchanting and terrifying, and the journey is one you won't forget anytime soon. Lost in Random is more than just a game. It's an experience that sticks with you, and that's something I really appreciate in a world filled with so many forgettable titles.
Some of you were too young to remember when Malric plunged his dagger deep into the heart of Agatha. But, like most of you, I too have dreamed of this day. Vengeance! Vengeance for Agatha!
Next is Chivalry 2. Chivalry 2 is like stepping into the chaos of a medieval battlefield, and man, this game really nailed it. The first time I picked up a sword and charged into battle, I couldn't stop grinning. There's something so raw and visceral about the combat. It's not just about swinging a weapon. There's strategy, timing, and a lot of glorious chaos. The battles are huge, with dozens of players clashing swords, arrows flying everywhere, and the sound of steel on steel ringing in your ears. It's the kind of game where you can go from feeling like a hero to laughing at your own ridiculous demise in seconds. The thing that really makes Chivalry 2 shine is how it embraces the chaos. You can pick up just about anything as a weapon, like chairs, chicken legs, even your own severed arm if things get really crazy. And the game doesn't take itself too seriously, which makes it all the more fun. It's about those hilarious, unexpected moments that happen in the heat of battle, like knocking someone out with a random piece of debris. There's a sense of camaraderie too, as you fight alongside teammates in these massive bloody skirmishes. This unfiltered fun from this game is really unparalleled. If you haven't tried this game yet, you definitely should. Next up, Jagged Alliance 3 takes me right back to the classic days of tactical strategy games, and honestly, it's everything I could have hoped for. The game has this perfect balance of nostalgia and modern gameplay, with a layer of depth that keeps you coming back. Managing a squad of mercenaries, each with their own quirks and personalities, adds so much character to the experience. It's not just about moving pieces on a board. It's about getting to know your team, understanding their strengths and weaknesses, and using that knowledge to outmaneuver your enemies. The tactical combat is challenging in the best possible way. Every move counts, and you're constantly weighing your options, trying to outthink the enemy. and when a plan comes together, when you successfully pull off a tough mission, it's incredibly satisfying. The game also has a ton of replayability with different mercenaries to recruit and missions to tackle. It's the kind of game that really scratches that itch for deep strategic gameplay without feeling overwhelming. For anyone who loves strategy and a bit of old school charm, Jagged Alliance 3 is a must-play. Next on the list is Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus is something else entirely. This game is a journey, literally and figuratively. Unlike the previous Metro games that kept you underground, this one lets you explore the surface, and it's a revelation. The world is harsh, unforgiving, but also strangely beautiful. Traveling across post-apocalyptic Russia in a battered old train, you get this sense of hope amidst the ruins. The open levels give you the freedom to explore, but there's still that tension that the series is known for. You never feel truly safe, and that keeps you on edge the whole time. What I love about Metro Exodus is how it balances moments of intense action with quiet, reflective scenes. You'll go from a brutal firefight to sitting around a campfire, listening to your companions share their stories. It's these quiet moments that give the game its heart. The story is deeply personal, focusing on Artyom and his search for a new home, and it really pulls you in. The game doesn't just show you a world in ruins, it makes you care about the people trying to survive in it. To be honest, I'm really amazed by the achievement of this game, knowing that it was not developed by a big studio. If you haven't played this game yet, you should definitely give it a try. It's currently at 80% off on Steam anyway.
Stop.
Yang, of course.
You've gotten slow, Sifu.
To finally conclude this list, we have Sifu. This game, man, it's something special. From the moment I picked up the controller, I was hooked. Sifu is all about martial arts, and it nails the feel of those classic kung fu movies. The combat is so fluid, so responsive, that every punch, every kick feels like you're in the middle of a carefully choreographed fight scene. What really makes it stand out, though, is the way it handles failure. The age mechanic is really something else. You're not just spawning after death. Instead, your character ages, and that adds this incredible layer of strategy to the game. You get stronger as you get older, but also more fragile, so every death feels like a significant step in your journey. It is also worth mentioning how the game pays homage to different martial arts films. There's this one moment where you're fighting through a hallway that feels straight out of 2003 Oldboy movie. It's actually totally cool. The story is simple, but powerful, centered around revenge, and it gives you all the motivation you need to keep pushing forward even when the game gets brutally difficult. And trust me, it does get tough, but that's part of the appeal. It challenges you to master its mechanics, to learn from your mistakes, and when you finally pull off that perfect combo or take down a tough boss, it's incredibly satisfying. And that's it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more gaming content. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.